There comes a moment in life when you realize peace is everything. Not money, not applause, not how many people like you, follow you, or validate your worth. Peace, your peace, is the richest currency you'll ever own. And yet we give it away so easily. We hand it to people who don't deserve it. To voices that criticize us, to relationships that drain us, to situations that are not even ours to carry. And after all the noise, after all the storms, we sit in silence and wonder, why am I so empty? You were never empty. You were just robbed. And now it's time to reclaim what's rightfully yours. It's time to stop letting others walk in your mind like it's a hallway with no locks. It's time to set a boundary so firm that your soul breathes again. Peace is not weakness, it's power under control. So today, we draw the line. We stop explaining ourselves to people who are committed to misunderstanding us. We stop shrinking so others feel comfortable. This is your season to rise quietly, to protect your heart loudly, and to walk in a strength that whispers, my peace is not for sale. You ever feel like your mind is too loud even in silence, like you're carrying weights that don't belong to you, thoughts that weren't even planted by your own voice? It's what happens when you stop guarding your inner space. People walk in, drop their mess, and leave you to clean up the emotional wreckage, and you, being kind, being good-hearted, keep the door open. Thinking it's love, thinking it's grace, but hear me when I say this. Not everyone deserves access to the sanctuary of your soul. You can forgive people and still refuse to give them front row seats to your peace. You can love people and still protect your boundaries like your life depends on it, because your emotional life does depend on it. When you keep allowing chaos in, don't be surprised when you start to confuse dysfunction with normal. Don't be surprised when your own voice starts to fade underneath all the noise. You were not built to carry the world on your back. You were built to stand firm in who you are and to protect the temple within you. And if you don't protect it, somebody else will come in and destroy what you were meant to build. You got to understand, your peace is your power. It's not just about feeling good. It's about being grounded, being centered. When you lose your peace, you lose your clarity. You lose your ability to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with emotion. And too many people have mastered the art of manipulating you just enough to pull you out of character and then blaming you for the fallout. That's why you need to guard your space like a soldier guards the gates of a fortress. Because the moment you let the wrong one in, they don't just visit, they rearrange the furniture. They shift the atmosphere. They plant seeds of doubt, of fear, of shame, and they do it so subtly that you don't even realize you've been hijacked until it's too late. You look around and wonder why you're exhausted, why you can't sleep, why your energy's drained, and it's because you gave VIP access to someone who came to steal your peace, not protect it. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your mind, your heart, or your time. Access is a privilege, not a right. Start acting like your soul is sacred, because it is. Most people won't respect your peace until you demand that they do. And I'm not talking about screaming or being aggressive. I'm talking about being so consistent with your boundaries that people know not to bring mess to your door. That kind of presence takes work. It takes discipline. You have to train yourself not to respond to every invitation to chaos. You have to remind yourself that just because someone is yelling doesn't mean you need to listen. Just because they're hurting doesn't mean you need to bleed with them. It is not your job to rescue people who are drowning in their own dysfunction, especially when they've built a home there. You've got your own waters to calm, your own light to keep burning. And yes, I know it's hard to walk away from people you care about. But peace is not selfish. It's survival. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back, let them grow on their own, and reclaim your space like your future depends on it. Because it does. There's a difference between being available and being accessible. You can be kind without being used. You can be generous without being drained. But if you don't know the difference, people will cross every line you didn't draw. And they'll blame you when you finally speak up. That's why guarding your inner space is a form of spiritual warfare. It's not about shutting people out. It's about keeping your spirit clean. Every time you entertain a toxic conversation, every time you say yes when your soul is screaming no, you lose a piece of your strength. And piece by piece, they start to dismantle you until you wake up one day and don't recognize who you are anymore. You're showing up in rooms that don't honor you. You're giving energy to people who would never refill your cup. That's not loyalty. That's self-betrayal. You can't serve the world while your soul is starving. You can't keep pouring out if you're constantly running on empty. It's time to check your circle. It's time to silence the noise. And it's time to make peace your new non-negotiable. It's wild how we spend so much of our lives trying to be accepted, trying to be enough for people who don't even know how to value peace themselves. You ever notice that the loudest ones, the most chaotic ones, always need company in their misery? They'll poke at you, guilt trip you, provoke you, anything to make you come down to their level. And if you're not careful, you'll mistake their drama for connection. You'll call it being there when really it's just you getting sucked into someone else's storm. You were not created to live in survival mode. You were not born to constantly explain yourself to people who twist your words and drain your light. It's not noble to suffer silently while others take advantage of your silence. Your peace is not a bargaining chip. It is your spiritual oxygen, and you've been holding your breath for far too long, trying not to offend, trying to make everyone comfortable. But your comfort matters too. Your soul needs stillness, and it's okay to walk away from anything that threatens it. Without apology, without guilt, without looking back. I know you might be thinking, but what if they leave? What if they get mad? Let them. Because anyone who truly loves you, who respects you, will never ask you to sacrifice your peace for their convenience. Let them walk if they must, but you stay rooted, stay grounded. Because when you finally decide that your peace matters more than their opinion, you'll feel a strength rise up in you that no storm can shake. You'll start to hear your own voice again. You'll begin to trust your intuition again. And you'll no longer feel the need to beg for understanding in rooms that were never built for you. It's not pride, it's preservation. It's not cold, it's clarity. The most powerful version of you lives on the other side of peace. And when you find it, when you protect it, when you prioritize it, you won't chase people, you won't fear rejection, and you won't be controlled by chaos. You'll sit in silence and smile, not because life is perfect, but because you're no longer letting it be dictated by other people's storms. That's real freedom. That's real strength. So from this moment forward, I want you to look at your inner world like sacred territory. Not everyone should walk through it. Not everyone should get access to the deepest parts of who you are. You've been too open with too many people who've only taken, and it's time to reclaim what's yours. Build your walls, not to keep love out, but to keep the peace in. Choose solitude over chaos. Choose growth over guilt. Because this life is short, and you don't get another soul to start over with. This one is yours to protect. So guard it like it's treasure. Guard it like it's holy. Guard it like your future, your calling, your purpose. Depend on it. Because they do. There's a kind of strength this world doesn't understand. A quiet strength. A power that doesn't shout, doesn't scream, doesn't fight for attention. It's the kind of power that stands still in the middle of a storm and doesn't flinch. The kind that chooses silence over chaos, calm over conflict, peace over proving a point. And let me tell you something. That kind of strength is rare because most people are trained to react, trained to fire back, trained to defend every insult and challenge every opinion. But what if I told you that your silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom? What if I told you that not responding isn't the same as not knowing? You don't have to explain yourself to everyone who misunderstands you. You don't have to entertain every lie told about you. Some of your greatest battles will be won in your silence, not because you didn't have something to say, but because you were wise enough to know your peace is too expensive to trade for petty arguments. When you learn to be still in the face of foolishness, you don't just protect your dignity, you rise above the noise. You rise into purpose. You rise into maturity. There will be people in your life who poke at you just to get a reaction, who press your buttons. Not because they're looking for truth, but because they're looking for control. And the moment you lash out, the moment you respond in anger or desperation, you lose that control. They win. Not because they were right, but because they pulled you out of character. See, reacting is easy. That's what the world does. But responding, that's divine. That's when you pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this worth my peace? Most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, the fight they're trying to start isn't even about you. It's about their own pain, their own trauma, their own inner battles. And you're just a target of convenience. But you don't have to be available for every battle. You don't have to swing at every pitch. Sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is choosing to walk away. Not because you're scared, not because you're weak, but because you know who you are and you refuse to be dragged into the mud just to prove it. Your silence is not an absence, it's a presence. It's not empty, it's full of discipline, strength, and clarity. Don't let the world trick you into believing that the loudest one is the strongest. It's not true. The strongest person in the room is the one who can sit in the tension, feel the emotion, and still choose wisdom over war. You don't need to announce your growth. Let your peace speak for you. Let your self-control speak for you. Because one of the most powerful things you'll ever learn in this life is that you don't have to show up to every fight you're invited to. You don't have to defend your character to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't have to lower yourself to match their chaos. Some people thrive on drama. They feed off of conflict. Don't give them the satisfaction of your reaction. Hold your peace like it's gold, because it is. And when you do, you'll find that silence is more than just not speaking. It's about standing in your power without needing to prove a single thing. Sometimes the best clapback is growth. The best revenge is healing. The loudest response is silence. When people wrong you, when they lie on your name, when they try to tarnish your spirit, don't chase them down trying to fix it. Don't water dead plants hoping they'll bloom. Just walk, move, grow. Because your peace doesn't come from their apology. It doesn't come from being understood. It comes from knowing that who you are is not defined by their perception. Silence says, I know who I am. Silence says, I've got bigger things to focus on. Silence says, I'm not going to let your bitterness infect my purpose. And when you finally grasp that, you stop reacting to every trigger. You start choosing peace over proving a point. You stop exhausting yourself trying to convince people who have already made up their mind. That's real growth. That's real elevation. And most importantly, that's real freedom. When you can stay calm in the middle of the storm, that storm no longer controls you. You become the storm, but a storm of purpose, not pain. There will be moments when you're tested deeply, painfully. People will cross lines. People will betray you. They'll throw your kindness back in your face. And the old you would have exploded, would have burned bridges, would have made sure they knew exactly how wrong they were. But not anymore. Because now you're growing. Now you're choosing to protect your energy. And that kind of growth is lonely sometimes. You'll feel the itch to react, to fight back, to prove your strength. But real strength doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it just walks away with its head high, with its heart intact. And if you can master that, if you can train yourself to pause before reacting, you'll step into a power most people never reach. You'll stop being a puppet controlled by outside strings. You'll become unshakable, unbothered, unavailable for anything that costs you your calm. And that's when life begins to shift. Because people can't control what they can't provoke. And when they lose that power over you, they start to respect you, even if they never say it. Understand this. Reaction is rooted in ego, but silence is rooted in wisdom. When someone tries to bring you into their storm, your silence can become your shield. You're not ignoring the situation. You're rising above it. You're saying, I know where my peace lives, and I refuse to step outside of it for temporary satisfaction. You don't need to throw words like weapons. Let time speak. Let truth speak. Let your fruit speak. Because when you're truly at peace, you don't need to announce anything. You don't need to respond to every critic. Your life will respond for you. Your focus, your consistency, your growth. That's the real statement. That's the real answer. So don't let your emotions hijack your future. Don't let a 5-second reaction create a lifetime of regret. Choose to be still. Choose to breathe. Choose to rise. That's how you protect your peace. That's how you level up. That's how you show the world what real power looks like. Calm, steady, and unmovable. So from now on, choose silence like it's strategy, because it is. Choose stillness like it's strength, because it is. When the noise around you grows louder, go deeper. When the world tries to shake you, stay grounded. Let your silence be your protest. Let it be your power. You don't need everyone to understand you. You don't need to win every argument. Sometimes you win by simply not engaging, by keeping your dignity, by walking away from conversations that are beneath your purpose. Because your peace is sacred, your energy is divine, and you are too wise to keep giving that away to people who haven't earned it. Let them talk, let them assume, let them throw their stones. But you stay silent. You stay focused. You stay in your lane, because that's where your destiny is, and that's where your power lives. In the quiet, in the stillness, in the choice to rise without reacting. There comes a moment in your life when you've got to stop looking for validation in the faces of people who don't even understand your calling. Stop anchoring your worth in people's opinions. People will love you one day and turn their back the next. One minute you're a hero, the next you're a threat. If your identity is tied to people, you're in for a painful ride. People are unstable. People are inconsistent. People can be blind to your value, especially when they're threatened by your light. But purpose is eternal. Purpose doesn't lie. It doesn't shift with emotions or get jealous of your success. Purpose is what God placed inside of you before anyone even knew your name. That's your anchor. That's your identity. When you finally realize you weren't created to impress people, but to fulfill a mission, that's when the pressure lifts. That's when the confusion fades. You stop begging for love. You stop chasing approval. You walk in purpose. You stand in power. You no longer need applause to feel seen. Because you know deep down, you were sent here for something bigger than being liked. If you spend your whole life adjusting yourself just to fit into other people's expectations, you'll lose the very thing that makes you powerful, your authenticity. Don't trade your soul for acceptance. Don't shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You weren't made to blend in. You were designed to stand out. When your identity is built on people's opinions, you live like a prisoner. You tiptoe through life, avoiding truth, avoiding growth, avoiding greatness just to keep everyone happy. But real freedom comes when you realize you don't need their permission to be who God created you to be. You don't need to explain your vision to people who weren't given the blueprint. You don't need to apologize for your ambition, your strength, your resilience. Some people won't like it, and that's okay, because they didn't assign your purpose, and they can't take it away. When you anchor your identity in purpose, you become untouchable. You're no longer driven by fear. You're no longer held back by rejection. You become grounded, focused, and unshakable. That's what happens when you stop worshiping people and start walking in purpose. It's time to break free from the chains of people-pleasing. It's time to stop living on the emotional roller coaster of who's clapping for you and who's not. Because when your identity is rooted in people, your peace is at their mercy. But when your identity is rooted in purpose, your peace becomes permanent. It's no longer something people can steal. They can lie about you and you'll keep moving. They can leave you and you'll still rise. Because your value isn't tied to their presence, it's tied to your calling. Some of the people who left you were never meant to stay. Their exit was necessary for your elevation. And once you understand that, you stop grieving over closed doors. You stop chasing people who made it clear they weren't meant to walk your journey. You let them go in peace, because you've got something deeper now. You've got purpose. You've got clarity. And you've got the strength to stand alone if that's what it takes, because your foundation isn't built on shifting sand, it's built on divine direction. You were never meant to be defined by likes, follows, or attention. You were never meant to mold your identity around other people's comfort zones. Purpose requires boldness. Purpose requires sacrifice. Purpose doesn't cater to the crowd, it answers to the calling. And the truth is, your purpose will often offend those who are committed to staying average. When you grow, they'll call you arrogant. When you speak truth, they'll call you judgmental. When you succeed, they'll call you lucky. But none of that matters when you know who you are. You were not made to fit into this world. You were made to change it. And that means sometimes you'll be misunderstood. That means sometimes you'll walk alone. But don't let that shake you. Don't let that distract you. Because when your identity is rooted in purpose, rejection becomes redirection. Loss becomes learning. Pain becomes fuel. Everything starts to work for you instead of against you. That's the power of walking in purpose. You become unstoppable, not because you're perfect, but because you're anchored. There's a reason the enemy attacks your identity so fiercely, because if he can make you forget who you are, he can make you settle for a life far beneath your calling. He wants you insecure. He wants you comparing. He wants you questioning your worth. But today that stops. Today, you remember who you are. You are not who they said you were. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are chosen. You are called. You are equipped. And your value is not up for debate. When you know who you are, you stop begging for tables you were meant to build. You stop dimming your light for people committed to darkness. You stop compromising your truth just to keep fake peace. And you start walking with a fire in your chest, with vision in your eyes, with unshakable confidence that says, I've been through too much to go back now. I've cried too many tears to forget my worth. I'm walking in purpose now, and I refuse to turn around. People will come and go. Some will cheer, some will hate, some will stay, and some will vanish the moment things get hard. That's life. But don't let their presence or absence determine your identity. Your worth is not tied to who stays. It's tied to what you're becoming. The purpose over your life is too big to be held hostage by temporary people. Don't let a season of loneliness make you forget that God is still working. Don't let temporary silence make you think you're off track. Sometimes God strips away distractions just to amplify your direction. Sometimes the disconnection is the protection, and what you thought was rejection was really divine redirection. So lift your head, stand tall. You are not broken, you are becoming. You're not behind, you are being built. And when you anchor yourself in that truth, you don't need people to validate your progress. You just need to keep moving, keep building, keep showing up. Because purpose doesn't ask for permission. It demands your faithfulness. So hear me clearly. When you know who you are and whose you are, everything changes. You stop waiting for the world to crown you, because heaven already called you. You stop fearing who walked away because they didn't carry your destiny. Only God does. And from this moment forward, you make a decision, a bold, unshakable decision, that you will no longer anchor your identity in people. You will no longer look outward for something that was always meant to be rooted within. You are enough. You are worthy. You are chosen for a mission bigger than approval, bigger than opinions, bigger than applause. Your identity is purpose. And when you live like that, when you lead with that, when you own that, no one and nothing can shake you. That's when you become unmovable. That's when you become whole. That's when you become unstoppable. Let me leave you with this, not just as a reminder, but as a truth to live by. You've been through enough storms to understand that your peace is priceless. You've cried enough silent tears to know that not everyone deserves access to your spirit. Life has taught you, sometimes the hard way, that not every battle is yours to fight. Not every insult deserves a reaction. And not every relationship is meant to go with you into your destiny. You are not obligated to keep draining yourself just to keep the peace around others. Protect your soul. Guard your energy. Choose silence when the noise around you is designed to provoke, distract, or destroy. Not because you're weak, but because you are wise enough to know what's worth your attention. That's growth. That's strength. And when it comes to your identity, let it no longer be shaped by the hands of others. You are not defined by the people who left, the ones who doubted you, or the ones who never saw your value. You are defined by your purpose, by the fire in your spirit that refuses to die, by the calling on your life that won't let you settle. The opinions of others might shake the ground for a moment, but when your identity is anchored in purpose, you become unshakable. You no longer chase people, approval, or attention. You chase alignment. You chase peace. You chase legacy. You don't need to prove your worth. You only need to live it. Every single day with quiet confidence and powerful intention. So today, decide. Decide to never let anyone steal your peace again. Decide to choose silence over reaction. Decide to anchor your identity not in people, but in purpose. And walk boldly into every room knowing you don't need to be accepted to be powerful, and you don't need to be loud to be heard. Let your peace speak, let your purpose lead, and let your silence carry the kind of strength that words never could. Thank you for giving me your time, your ears, and your heart. May your days be filled with peace that can't be shaken, purpose that cannot be broken, and strength that will carry you through every storm. God bless you. Stay strong. Keep rising.